Hello everyone. I'm hoping you can hear me okay. I'm Cindy Drozda, and I'm here today to hang out with y'all and welcome everyone. Please type some questions for me in the chat as we go along. I really do want to hear from you, and I've got a bit of a plan today that I'd like to talk about making good jam fits and box lid fits. So post in there, tell me where you're from. I see a bunch of familiar names in there in the chat, so it'll be great. And let's get started with some stuff here. I'm going to manage my stuff. And there we go. That'll be better. No, I want that one. Okay, very good, very good. And, uh-oh, what happened there? There we are. Yeah, technology, what can I say? Technology. Where are we? Yeah, I wanted to talk about some things that are upcoming and also tell you about my work a little bit. So let's go over these couple of things here. This is my next online demonstration, metal machining for woodworkers. And you can see my milling machine there, but it's going to be about using our regular woodworking machinery to do some basic metal machining, like drilling and tapping holes and some shaping and maybe even a little bit of turning. So yeah, let's see if this works. And I really want to let you know about this one. This is Vendor Showcase, and that's really cool thing. I'll see if I have the technology to put the registration in. No, I didn't get it. Anyway, Vendor Showcase you can get to by over here. If you go to my website, there's a link on there, down there on the right side, yellow button, register for Vendor Showcase. Click there, and I believe it will take you to this page where you can register for Vendor Showcase, and it'll be great fun. We always have a really good time at Vendor Showcase. It's myself, Todd Raines, Lyle Jameson, Joe Fleming, John Jordan, Steve Worcester. Have I left anybody out? I hope not. 6 of us, and we're all demonstrators and tool vendors. So just want to introduce myself a little bit by showing the kind of work that you're likely to see from me. I'll get rid of that banner here too. Get rid of that one. Okay. I'm known for my lidded vessels, often with finials, often made from burls, and natural edges. Quite often, I'm going to do an online demonstration on this project, the waterfall, next month, and the one after. It'll be a 2-session thing. Natural edges with gold leaf, real gold leaf on them. That's always fun. And I love to do boxes. So here are just a few of the different box styles that I might be known to do. And I'm going to talk about how I would make a box lid fit, and also, because it's pretty much the same skill, a jam fit, so that I can put so that I can do the bottom of the box or the lid with an inlay. So yeah, let's get started on that. If anyone's got a question, we'll put you up here and answer any question you have. Please do. Good to see y'all. And here's a friend of mine, Scott Hampton. Nice to see you. Yeah, post your questions in the comments, whether you're on YouTube or on Facebook. Oh, Haim, hello, good to see you. Lots of people I know here in the comment section. So what I want to do is I want to talk about the tools that I use and the methods that I use for making a box lid fit just how I want it to. So we'll start here with I've got a piece in the chuck that will be my box lid, and I've already drilled it out part way just to get started. What I'm going to do is the first thing I'm going to show you is the easy way. The easiest way to do, in my opinion anyway, a good fitting box lid fit is to do the recess, the mortise first, because I find it a lot easier to make a tenon to fit a mortise than a mortise to fit a tenon. What I'm looking for is a parallel sided recess mortise here. And to do that, I want to use a tool that can give me a wall on my recess that's parallel to the bed of the lathe. And here are a few tools I would use for that. My favorite is this recess finishing scraper here. And what it's got is a cutting edge here on the side that's parallel to the side of the tool. So with this, I can make a parallel sided recess by holding the tool parallel to the bed of the lathe. The way I do that is I'm going to have, can you see that? You can see it better over here. I'm going to have the bed of the lathe here as my reference, and I can actually see it up to that side too. And if I get the tool to where it's parallel to the bed, then that cutting edge will cut parallel to the bed. And this is a negative rake scraper, this tool, because it has a cutting edge on, or a bevel on both the top and the bottom. And I hold it on the tool rest in a level attitude, or more or less. I'm trying for level. On a tool like this one, I want to have the tool rest far enough back that I support the tool on the full width, because at the cutting edge, the top of the tool is wider than the bottom. So if I have the support where the bevel is and the wood touches, it's going to try to roll the tool over, making it grabby. So I want to support back on the full width of the tool. And I will use this one last. I'd like to show you a couple of other things that work too. Now this tool is the one I will really prefer if what I want to do is make a recess to fit a tenon. So first I'm going to make a tenon to fit a recess, which means the criteria for my recess are really just that I need to have a parallel sided recess and a smooth wall so it looks nice. So here is one tool I can use for that. I call this a straight side flat bottom box tool, and it's got a cutting edge on the end. It does not have a cutting edge on the side. It's milled from round bar, so actually this top part here never touches the wood. Only the very end touches the wood. So this kind of a tool is going to cut just with the end. And I'm going to hold it parallel to the bed of the lathe. And yeah, I'm going to move my tool rest back so that I support the tool on a wider part of it and not right up there where the bevel is. And for a tool like this one and also the next one, what I'm going to do is turn the lathe on at full RPM 3000, because no reason why not. And I'll hold the tool parallel to the bed of the lathe, and I'll just cut straight in. I'm just pushing the tool straight in to the piece. And let me show you here in a minute some things about this particular tool. Let's see, we'll get over here. I'll show you how this tool works. This one, we have the inside of the box, and the tool has a radius on its edge here because it's milled out of round bar. So the radius on the tool will track down the radius on the box, inside of the box, and make a nice smooth, clean cut. Let's see if we can actually tell how clean the cut is here. Oh, and my good friend Lyle Jameson is here. Lyle is one of our vendor showcase team members, and so we'll all see him on April Fool's Day. No fooling, we're going to be there. And okay, so I don't know if you can really see too well, but there's a nice smooth finish on the wall of that recess. I'm not talking about the center of the box, just the recess that I just cut. And if I cut straight in parallel to the bed of the lathe, I will make a parallel-sided recess that I can fit my tenon to and have a nice fit. And here's another tool that I can use for that. And this is something probably a lot of you might have. This is a square carbide cutter. And I've got the cutter barely hanging over the edge of the steel so that it won't be grabby, so that I have the support fairly wide, close to the width of the cutter. And a tool like this one has a cutting edge on the side. And so it's going to cut also. I'll hold it parallel to the bed of the lathe, and it's going to cut also right in parallel to the bed. One thing that this one will do reasonably well is cut with the side of the tool. So this one will give me the ability to take a little bit of material off to size my recess. So this is a really, really good type of tool. And in my metalworking for woodworkers demo coming up here, we're going to make a tool just like this. It's not as high tech as some of the ones you might buy, but it'll be perfectly serviceable, and we'll make cuts like this. So yeah, so tune in for that one. It'll be great. And the other thing I want to talk about here is something that really does not work, and that is, let me get back to it over on my slide presentation here. A tool like this one. This is basically a parting tool, and the side edge here is sharp and in contact with the wood. If I push this tool straight in parallel to the bed of the lathe. But if I do that, what's going to happen is, because of the slope of this edge, top edge, it's going to keep cutting as I push the tool in. But since it's sloped like that, here's what's going to happen. Right on the center line where the end cutting edge is cutting, we're going to be thinking we're cutting our recess because that end cutting edge cuts right on the center line. But the upper part, that top edge, is actually cutting higher up on the circle than the center cutting edge. Center cutting edge is cutting right on the diameter I want, but at the same time, as I push the tool in, the top, the sloped edge is cutting out further on the circle and making a larger diameter opening out. So out at the rim, I have a larger diameter than I have in the bottom of my recess. So that is not a really accurate way to cut a parallel-sided recess. If I'm not careful, I'll get a taper. Now, here's what I don't want to do. Oh, no, wait a minute. That's not it. Let's see where we are. I don't want this tool to be held so that that top edge is level, because although that would make the cut that I want, it's not really a safe thing to do to use a scraper with the handle lower than the tip. So I'm not going to do that. But what I do like is something with a cutting edge on the top, such as that carbide cutter, or I didn't bring it over here, a single bevel scraper like I show in the picture there, because that's going to cut right on center line the whole way down. Now, the difference between some of these tools is whether they're cutting on the end cutting edge, like this one, which is cutting right on center line, but it's only cutting on the end of the tool. That would be, yeah, let me go grab it. I really did want to talk about that one, and I forgot to bring it over there. She's gone for just a second, but coming right back. So here I have a couple of tools. This one's got a cutting edge on the end, but it's got the cutting edge on the top. So with this one, if I push it straight in, and let's do that. Sure, why not? We'll use this one here. And I've got the lathe at 3,000 RPM again. And I'm going to lower my tool rest so that I'm cutting right closer to center, although it doesn't really matter because I'm cutting at the same point on the circle the whole way in. And what I don't want is the tool rest so low that the heel of the bevel contacts the wood. Oh, and it looks like I've got that scenario going. Can we see it from over here? No, that won't do it. Right, so take my word for it. I do need my tool rest a little higher because what was happening there is this bottom corner, the radius of that opening is so tight that it was going to hit on the lower part of the circle. So I'm cutting a little above center. Now, a tool like this with a cutting edge on the top and no cutting edge on the side, that would be this one. That would be this one. These are going to cut parallel, but they're not going to cut on the side of the recess and take just a little bit off, like this one here, or the square carbide. And these carbide tools, you usually don't sharpen them, but this one's flat on top. It doesn't have a bevel on top or a cup or anything, so I could sharpen the top of this one and renew its edge. What it does not have is a grinder burr like this one, and this is why I like this tool, because it has, by the way, a 10-degree top bevel and a 60-degree bottom. See the edge a little better over here. So you can see that it has a 60-degree bottom and just a little bevel on the top. That's about 10 degrees there, giving me a 70-degree included angle. An included angle with a negative rake scraper is what I want always. I want a negative rake scraper to have an included angle of somewhere between 40 and 85 degrees. I find that 50 to 70 is optimum, but you know, any of these angles really work pretty well. I've even had people say that a 90-degree edge works. The more obtuse the cutting edge, 70 versus 50, for instance, the more pressure it will take to get it to cut, but possibly the longer the edge will last. Now on this one, I'm going to just be cutting with the sharpening burr. I sharpen it on a 60-degree platform, so I raise a burr on the top edge here. I'm going to hold the tool parallel to the bed of the lathe here, looking down on it. You can see I'm not standing back and looking at the side of the tool. I'm looking down on the top of it. And I'm going to take a light cut here, moving parallel to the bed of the lathe and then perpendicular to get the bottom of the recess with the end cutting edge. Let's look at that from this view here. So I've got it lined up with the bed of the lathe, and I'm just with barely any pressure taking a whisper of dust off the fit. And I can make it parallel. I can adjust its taper a little by angling the tool. So this one's advantage over this one is that that burr allows me to make a cut with a little bit less pressure against the wood. So conceivably, I can make a finer cut. And that's why I use that one. I just want to make another little mention about this tool where it has a notch in it there, which happens as you sharpen it. It gets narrower and narrower because you're grinding on that bevel there. It does not start with a notch. It starts with a full width tool with the cutting edge right here at this edge of the tool. So if you go to make one yourself, don't start with a notch in it. Start with it full width, and the notch is what happens inevitably as you sharpen it. So what I have now is I have an opening with a recess, and this is going to be the top of my box. Before I move on, I'm going to take this beading and parting tool, which is a negative rake scraper if I use it with the handle level. So I'm going to use this with the handle level and just use it to clean off the end grain here. Cleaning off the end grain and getting a nice little shaving. Oh, am I right? Gonna get back here, and that's what I want to show you. We're just taking a nice whisper shaving. I can use this same tool, or I could use this one, which is the same kind of edge, but at an angle, like a skew, kinda. So, if I miss any comments from you, please comment again. Yeah, Scott likes the shape of this tool. I think you probably meant that recess finisher. That's a really good one. And we also have the same sort of phenomenon here with this one, in that I have a burr on the top because I sharpened it the way I'm going to use it, and it's got a 50-degree included angle at the cutting edge. And I'm going to just use it right now to deburr that corner a little bit, and then I'm going to use it in a similar way over here to make a over here to make a chamfer where the top and bottom of the lid will fit. And that leaves me with a little flat right here that will be joined with the lid, and a chamfer where the two halves will meet. So there's my lid top done. I could do some work on the inside of it, but all I really want to show you today is the fit part. I wasn't thinking to go into finishing a box, actually, so because I've only got an hour. So the top of the box, I'll set it aside for the moment, and I'll put the bottom of the box in here in my chuck. I'm using a Vicmark chuck with its standard 50 millimeter jaws, but pretty much whatever kind of chuck you like is good. So there's the bottom half of the box. I pre-drilled it just to drill out its bulk because I wasn't planning to get into that today. So now what I want to do is make a tenon to fit this recess. The recess is all finished and sanded and everything, and I find it much easier to take a little bit off of a tenon just with normal tools than to take a little bit off the wall of a recess. So for this, I will take my caliper and caliper the recess. Show that over here. Caliper the recess. And lock my caliper. And now I'll take the point of the caliper closest to me and scribe a mark on the face of my box. And when I get a scribe mark that will line up, a little bit of light, okay, that will line up with the far point of the caliper, though I will never touch the far point. I'm looking at it to see that if I did touch, it would line up. And that's going to be my tenon for my lid. Now, I should not have made those test scribe marks there in that area because I'm going to have to clean up the front of it after all. So that was a bit of a glitch on my part. Now I'm going to take my beading and parting tool, and here I'm using this, what was a negative rake scraper a minute ago. I'm using it right now as a peeling cutter. I'm going to start, contact the heel, raise the handle until I get a chip over the top edge, and I'll push in and keep raising the handle slightly to keep the cut engaged until I'm almost to my line. Then I'll raise the handle and use the tool as a negative rake scraper to scrape a taper up to the line. Now I've got the taper up to the line, almost to the line, and I'm going to trial fit my lid. The reason for the taper is not because I want a tapered fit. It's because if my line were not very accurate, I have only lost a little bit and I can still salvage my fit. So I don't want to aim for a nice parallel tenon and have it be too small because then I'm stuck. So if I put this lid on that taper I just turned and I turn it, it'll give me a shiny mark, which you usually only see it once the lathe is turned on. And now I will use my negative rake scraper, and I sharpen this one on the grinder. It's got a 50-degree included angle at the cutting edge, and I sharpen it on a platform that's set to half of that, 25 degrees, because this one has a symmetrical top and bottom bevel. It's not necessary to have the bevel symmetrical top and bottom. Any combination thereof will work just fine. Like, for instance, this one has 10 on the top, 60 on the bottom, and I could do that same thing with 35 and 35 and get 70. So we've got it almost fitting here. It goes on part way, right? So I'm thinking, okay, and I see that I do kind of have a little bit of a taper to my tenon yet. And I can take off a tiny amount with my negative rake scraper just off the bottom edge of that tenon. And I'm trying right now to get a pretty tight jam fit here for this fit. Now if I turn it, you'll see that it's almost going on. The beauty of the Negative Rake Scraper, cutting with the burr on top of the cutting edge, is that I can take just a very little bit of wood off and fine-tune my fit to be just what I want. And I have found that to be the secret to a good jam fit or box lid fit, is if I can take a little bit off the fit. There it was, it almost fits. And I'm checking to see if the burr is on top because I can feel it. Almost fits, so we're going to just take a little bit more off, and that should get it to fit or close. I don't mind taking a whole bunch of really light cuts to get just the fit that I want. It's a little tight as it goes down. Let me see if the fit is causing a shiny mark on the lid or a shiny mark on the tenon. And I'm thinking I see the shiny mark in the lid, so I'm going to make a little guess here that I need to take a bit off of the end. So we'll just take a little bit off of just the end and see if that made it better. By the way, if anyone would like to make a question, ask me a question in the comments, please do. I'm here to address whatever you'd like to talk about. What I'm talking about is the mortise and tenon fit of a box lid or a jam chuck. So that didn't change it a lot. And I'm thinking I see some shiny marks here. I need to take just a tiny more off. And we should be good. It gets tighter as it goes in. And I'm thinking that might mean I got a very little bit of a taper to my mortise. And while I'm here, I'm going to clean off, and I'll use the skew shaped tool here to clean off this end where all that roughness was. My mistake there, but I want to clean it off anyway. Here's what that looks like. I used this one because I don't have to move the tool rest, and I'll just deburr that corner. I'd probably like to deburr the inside corner too, which I'll do when I hollow the box lid. Now I'm going to use this one also on this shoulder, which looks like this. I'm trying to make the shoulder nice and clean, and the Negative Rake Scraper will give me a much cleaner surface than the parting tool that I use to start the tenon. And I'm also going to may as well use the same tool to make a chamfer on where the joint between the two will be. We'll see how the fit is here. Well, that's a pretty tight fit. It gets tighter as it goes in, which always kind of makes me wonder what's happening. I'll see. I think I see a little shiny mark there, but I'm going to take just a tiny bit off, and we'll see if it fits now. For the best fit, I'm being pretty fiddly here, but for the best fit, typically it helps to just take a little bit off, because now I've got it. What do I mean by it's good? If I can turn the spindle by holding on to the piece that's jam fit on, I think it's going to be good enough for when I'm turning it on the lathe. There's a little bit of gap right there between the halves. I don't want that. So that means this tenon is longer than it needs to be, and I'll just shorten it up with this cut here with the skew again. Now I could go straight into the end grain with little bites because I do think I need to take off a little bit. Let's see that from here. I'm just making a straight in cut into the end grain with the negative rake scraper. If you've ever tried using a single bevel scraper pushing directly into end grain, you'll know that it can be pretty grabby pushing directly into end grain. So that's why I use the negative rake scraper. So this is good. Another thing I'm looking for here, which I got quite by accident, is I want the two chamfers on each side to give me a reveal of the same width, or a shoulder of the same width, so that when I put the two together, the two V grooves make a crisp bottom. So this is very good. And now I can bring up my tailstock, and I can complete my box by taking a little skimming cut across this to true them up. And then I'll shape the top of the box, put an inlay in it if I want to, or whatever I want to do on the top of the box. And then I will hollow the inside. And once that's done, I'll take a little more off of this tenon, because often the tight jam fit is a tighter fit than I want for my box when it's done, especially if I have a delicate box with a finial on it. So I may decide to adjust that fit. And then I'll be ready to do the bottom of the bottom on a jam chuck, on a waste block. I'm not getting any questions from anybody here. Does that mean I'm answering all your questions without even trying? Go ahead. Type something in the chat for me. We would all love to hear from you. I'm putting a waste block in my chuck here. This waste block has a bit of a hollow in it, and it has a hole right through the middle. That's so that if I get something stuck on there, I can push it out. Like if my jam fit is too tight and I can't pull it off after I'm done, I can push it out with a dowel from the other side. So that's why the center hole. And then I just relieved some of that there. So I want to talk a little bit about what I'm going to do here. I've got my box sequence here. Let's talk about that first. I got the lid of the box hollowed, and then I put the bottom of the box in, made a tenon, fit the lid on there, and I'll shape the top of the lid. And then I'm going to put this is a different shape of box, but to illustrate the point, I'm going to put the box bottom on a waste block jam chuck. And what I want for that's not a particularly good view, is it? How about that one? What I want for that is I'm either going to make a recess in the waste block to fit this tenon, or I'm going to make a tenon on the waste block to fit the inside of the box, which I will have tried to make fairly parallel sided when I hollowed it. But it doesn't have to be a parallel sided opening inside. It just needs to be something that will fit over a tenon. So the choice there, if I fit the tenon into a recess, now I have to make a recess to fit a tenon. And that's what I'm going to be doing here because I just want to show that. But, you know, the easiest way would be to make a tenon to fit the inside of the box because, again, I start with the hardest part and then I fit the tenon to it. So, let's see. Paul's got a question here. Do I rough turn boxes and leave them for a while before making the final fit? I might do that. Often what I'll do depends on the wood. If it's a really hard wood and it's very wet to start with, then yeah, I'll want to rough turn my box with a thick wall so that I can have dry wood for the fit. And what I will usually tend to do though is uh, oh, I lost that, didn't I? Okay. I I will dry the whole piece so that instead of having a roughed out box, I'll have a dry blank. And that's what I did here. Is these blanks are dried in my kiln so that they're pretty dry. But what I do find is I wait till I've hollowed the box before I final tune the fit. You heard me say that I was going to hollow the box and then I was going to take a little bit off of here, uh, here, this tenon to make the fit that I want. So I'll do that after I'm done hollowing, because sometimes when you hollow the box, it changes. Now, it might make sense to come back tomorrow and tune the fit. And I could get this tenon back in the chuck. I could leave it in the chuck and come back later and do it. One thing I don't want to do is leave the two halves together and walk away for a while because oftentimes they'll tighten up. And Scott's got a good question. I have a whole philosophy on this, of course. Do I like a tight fitting or loose fitting lid when the box is finished? Well, some of it depends on the style of box. If I'm making a capsule type box like this one, where it's okay, I'm thinking it's okay for the person to have to use two hands to open the box. Well, it doesn't have any delicate details. It's okay. It's grabbable. That would be fine. In general, I would rather have it be where you could set the box on the table and uh, and lift the lid, and it'll pick up without lifting the bottom of the box off the table. That's that's sort of my preference most of the time. And I know some people like the piston fit type of lid fit where you do have to use two hands. It makes a nice squeak when you take the lid off. That's kind of cool. A lot of my boxes have finials or delicate details or really thin walls. I don't want that to have a tight fitting lid. So if I have a finial box, it's got a loose enough lid that I can gently take the finial and lift it up and the lid will come out. So it's a one-handed box removal. And that's, going to be a personal choice. Some people like to have the tight. This one actually is maybe not too bad. It's a little tight for my opinion, but if I was putting it in my purse or in the glove box of the car or something, and I wanted to stay put, well, then I want a tight lid. So, yeah, I think we've got a question or two here. I am seeing both Facebook and YouTube questions. It's possible I missed something. Now, I got Scott's question earlier. I got Paul's question. If you asked a question, please ask it again. Here's one. Thank you for that, and a couple others. Yep, I missed them. Okay, we'll get to that right now. Does all of this apply to side grain boxes as well? More or less, yes. However, a side grain box is more likely to go oval with the seasonal moisture changes in the air, even if the wood's perfectly dry. And maybe that's okay. Sometimes I call that a twist lock. You find the place where it fits really nicely, and then you twist it a little further, and it jams together, and then you can open it by getting it back to where it's loose. With a with an end grain box, and that means the grain of the wood's going parallel to the bed of the lathe. I have side grain all the way around. So I'm going to get a consistent compression to the fit all the way around. If this was a side grain box, grain perpendicular to the bed of the lathe, then what I would have is side grain on two sides of center and end grain on the other two. So the end grain won't compress at all. The side grain will. The side grain dimension will possibly shrink or expand. The end grain dimension will not. So I really am not a huge fan of side grain boxes for that reason. But if I was going to do one, I would limit the diameter, because the smaller the diameter, oh, sorry, Jennifer, I didn't really mean to do that. The smaller the diameter, the less those seasonal changes will be. Just function of percentage of diameter, you're going to get more jamming of the lid if it gets really humid out than if it's larger in diameter. So yeah, that's kind of my feeling about it. Some species also change more with the seasons than others. Stable might be what you call that. I know stable can mean lots of different things. So the sharpening sequence of the negative rake scraper that's sharpened on the end and the side, I can show you that. I have a little video that I can play for that. There's another question up here that I missed, which I wanted to talk about, and that is, do I plan to be at SWAT? Yeah, I'm planning to be at SWAT. So let's hope it all comes together and we can all be there. All right. So I'm at the end of the questions. Let's talk about the sharpening then. Okay, I've got a video here that I can play that shows how I do the sharpening, and let me get that here. Right, it's here, here, and here, and we'll go over here. So this is just about sharpening negative rake scrapers, and I believe that one is on there. First thing I'm going to do is set the angle to the platform. And setting the angle to the platform, lots of different ways. I could use the tool as an angle gauge here if I want to. Just use its angle to set my platform to the wheel. Now I'm sharpening one with an end cutting edge. This is that beading and parting tool. It's only got a cutting edge on the end, and I'm going to sharpen this one here. These are on a 25-degree platform, so I'm just going around the edge. I've got lines on the platform to keep the tool perpendicular or parallel to the wheel. And so that's that type of negative rake. Now this one, 60-degree bottom bevel, and I'm going to set the platform to 60 degrees. This is a different kind of a jig for setting the angle on the platform. The Raptors are pretty good. So I've got my angle, and I'm using a CBN wheel here. So I'm holding, to do the end cutting edge, holding the tool parallel to those lines that are drawn parallel to the faces of the wheel. And now I'll hold it parallel to the line that's drawn parallel to the edge of the wheel. And that sharpens that one. Here's another of the same kind of negative rake that's got the it's got the 60-degree bottom bevel, and I never sharpen those top bevels on those. Now, if you don't have your platform cut out, which you kind of need to get up around the side of the wheel, you can take an overlay made out of plastic or aluminum, or this is Formica, this one here, and that'll give you this cutout platform without having to actually cut your Wolverine platform. Okay, so we've got a question here from TJ Turning. Would it not be better to have a long tenon for the jam chuck than the small one to give a better grip? Yeah, long tenon, nice parallel to parallel fit. It's going to give a better grip. Other things will give a better grip too. Like if the wood I'm using is compressible, like this is madrone here on this waste block, and this is cherry, the box I'm working on. Both of those compress a little bit. The fibers are, it's not such hard wood that it won't compress a little bit, and that gives me a better grip. So I'm not going to use something super hard like hard rock maple or cocobolo for my jam chuck. And if I'm making my box out of cocobolo, I'll use a softer wood for the jam chuck because I want some compressibility. I want some compressibility to the fibers because that adds to the grip. Using an end grain waste block, that means the grain of the waste block is parallel to the bed of the lathe. That gives me grip, side grain, all the way around the mortise and tenon fit. And that's going to give me more grip. So, yes, a longer tenon does help, but there are other things to think about as well, such as what kind of wood I'm using for my waste block. So we got any more questions here? Some of these I don't understand, like that one. Okay. Okay. Right. Just having a little fun with the technology. So what I'd like to show you next is how I'm going to make a recess to fit a tenon. And it's a variation on how I made this recess with my recess finishing tool. So at this point, the inside of the box will be completely done. And I'm going to jam fit it onto this waste block. And like I said, I could make a tenon to jam fit this over. And that would mean that the end of this box tenon will fit up against the shoulder on the waste block. And if I make a recess to fit this tenon, then the shoulder on the box will fit up against the shoulder on the waste block. And either way is good. If I wanted to maybe come back later and take a little bit off this fit because, oh, maybe it changed overnight or something, I would make a tenon to fit the inside of the box, jam fit this on, and that gives me access to that surface to either take a little cut or to maybe just judiciously sand. So, yes, Ben is here. I see you on a lot of online stuff. Thanks for coming. Thank you all for being here. And Lyle makes a good point that if I'm making a box lid fit, the longer the tenon, the more is missing out of the two halves. So right now what I've got is the two halves of the box are missing how much the parting tool took out plus the length of the tenon. And if I made a longer tenon for my box, then I just lose more of that grain match. Let's find it just for fun. That may or may not be important to you. If the wood is grainy, it can be. There is another way to do it where I could have made my tenon as a separate piece, a loose tenon, if you will, glued into the bottom of the box and then fit to the top of the box. And I did that on a recent online demonstration with Scott Grove where we had a little inlay on that piece that went in as a loose tenon. So there are lots of ways to do it. I would say if you want grain match, the best thing to do is to make the tenon for the fit out of a separate piece of wood. Second best thing to do is don't make this tenon too long. If I want a relatively loose fit, I don't want a long tenon anyway. If I want that big whoosh of a piston fit, then a longer tenon kind of gives me more of that and a nice fit. So, it's all your aesthetics And yeah, Sandy brings up a good point here that when you take the lid off the box, oftentimes the look of a long tenon is less aesthetically pleasing. It also means that the mortise in your lid has to be deeper, and that limits the design of your box. So these are just things to think about. There's no really uh, good for everyone. It's up to you. Now, what I did on that one with Scott was we decorated that tenon with a bit of power shell inlay. And so dressing it up a bit makes it a feature when you take the lid off. And that adds to something different to the design. So, yeah, lots of things to think about. Okay. So, yes, if you have a question, do please type it in for me. And I apologize if I missed a few. If I missed your question and didn't even go back to it after I realized that, please do ask it again, because I want to address everything. All right, so addressing everything. Before I run out of time, I want to address, and I am going to run out of time, so I'm going to be going a little long. But my goal was to end in an hour, about an hour, and we're at the you making a recess to fit a tenon. I'm going to start, like I often do, with the calipers on the tenon and lock the caliper so it won't slip when I scribe with it. Oh, yes, I don't know your real name, Hawk Force, but learning a lot here on YouTube. Absolutely. There's a lot to be seen on YouTube. I would caution you, though, there's a lot of unsafe stuff on YouTube as well. So use common sense. And if somebody does something that you think looks crazy, don't try it. Or check it with one of your mates and see if it sounds good. Always consulting with an experienced turner helps. You can send me an email anytime, and I'm happy to troubleshoot your issues or help you just decide whether something is safe or not. All right, so I've got my caliper set. I don't need the lid of the box anymore. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to scribe on the face of the waste block the diameter of my tenon. So I'll get where it looks like both points will fit the groove I just made, although I'm never going to touch that far point to the wood. And I've got a little more waste to remove here than I want to be taking out with my recess finisher, so I'll use something else to remove that waste. I like to usually use my thin parting tool. It's got a little bevel on the bottom, so here I'm using a Negative Rake Scraper in end grain. Here's a good question, Brandon. This will not be on my website for purchase. It'll be on YouTube and Facebook for free to watch after I'm done. It'll just stay up there. I may, probably should, put them on my website too, but one thing at a time. So yes, you can watch later. And we're almost done anyway. So what do we got here also? Purple Heart. Yeah, and you say you're a beginner. Purple Heart is not beginner wood. If you're doing a good job, you're more advanced than you think. So yeah, keep on doing it. And yes, lighting is always good. By the way, I sell this light on my website, among other things. And thank you very much for the kind words, Brandon. This is a fun thing, this live stream. It's just supposed to be a short tip, kind of like Lyle's Tuesday tips, where I can just show you something and feel free to advertise to you to my heart's content at the same time. Like asking you to go to my website and such. So here I am taking the thin parting tool, and I'm just using it to get most of the bulk out. I will also double check myself here to be sure I didn't mess up on my on my lid scribe, my measurement and scribe. I wanted to go here, yes, but it looks fine. So I'll take my recess finisher and holding it level on the tool rest and parallel to the bed of the lathe, I'm going to take a 1 millimeter deep cut out to the line. What that does for me is it allows me to get close to the fit, and I'm really not very close yet, without wasting a lot of my waste block. Of course, it's a waste block, so maybe I don't really care that much, but this is how I sneak up on a fit when I'm trying to do a nice box. Oh, Stuart Batty, somebody just made a comment mention. Yes, he is one of my mentors, and he's a guy, if you can find him on YouTube or Vimeo, I think he's more on Vimeo. He's great. All right, so now it almost fits because it won't fall out. I'm going to go to full depth passes on the wall of the recess. Stu Batty, yes, he's cool. He's one of the best, maybe the best instructor of basic wood turning fundamental techniques in the world. So if you ever have a chance to take a hands-on with him, yes, do it. I like to take his class anytime I can. Ah, yes, that light. Thank you for the recommendation, Brandon. It's good. Yeah, let me show you that light, seeing as I'm already over time anyhow. This is what it looks like. It's a piece of LED strip, and you'll be able to see it better if I dim it down. It's got magnets on the back. It has a switch, on-off switch. I put the dimmer in, and I don't sell everyone with a dimmer. It'd have to cost more. And the magnets allow it to stick on to, for instance, the tool rest, which is how I was using it there. I just stuck it on the tool rest so that the light will shine into my piece. And the reason I have a dimmer is for video, because really there's a ton of light with this thing. Let me turn it up all the way. And I love this for actual working on my own, because it's just amazing how much you can see when there's a lot of light inside your box or hollow form. But as you can see, it washes out the camera. So I'm tuning it down here just for the video. Okay. Here's Brandon with a question. Let's read that to everyone. I've been having trouble with the fit after finishing. Nice pop fit that locks up afterward. Yeah, sometimes the finish takes up space. Sometimes during the finishing process, the elapsed time is causing the wood to change in the environment and change the fit. If it's too tight after a while, then you're fine, because you can jam fit it back on the lathe, sand a little off, or take another cut, redo it. It'll be great. Even kiln dried wood can change, will change with seasonal moisture changes. So just because it's been dried doesn't mean it will never change. In fact, they quite often do. Oh, and this is Woodturning Tool Store. This is Todd Rains. He's one of the vendor showcase team. So let me put up vendor showcase for you. I don't have actually the ability to add links to the chat easily, but I believe I did get ready to do vendor showcase. Let's see if I can do it. It's not working. Okay, never mind. I can't do a link in the chat right now. But what I can do is show you my website where, uh, indeed, I meant to go back. Oh, technology. Here's the page, but I wanted to show you where to get it from, and I am stuck. So another reason I do live streams, I'm learning a lot about all this technology. So if you go to my website, which you can see scrolling past on the bottom there, and you'll see on the home page a link to click that'll take you to register for Vendor Showcase. And there's also a page on my website that talks a little bit about it. And yeah, we're really excited. Spring Vendor Showcase. Guess what we're going to do? A competition or a challenge. It's going to be the egg challenge. And on Sunday, April 3rd, we will have an egg challenge. We'll have a couple of us turning eggs live for you, and you're welcome to turn along with us. Scott Hampton, you're the one I'm thinking of. You're going to turn an egg along with us, I hope, because Scott's done that before. And you get extra points for turning it live with us, but you can also turn your egg ahead of time and bring it to show. John Jordan is doing creative judging, and we're leaving it up to him to do whatever hilarious stuff he wants to for the prizes. So, yes, bribes will be accepted, he says. Yeah. Oh, Rosemary. Good to hear from you indirectly via Steve. Tell her hello and fond memories, and I hope she's doing great. Jam chucking from Stu. Yes, he does. He uses a jam chuck to jam chuck the rim of his bowl to do the bottom. And I use jam chucks for a lot of things. Scott's accepted the challenge. Yes. So yes, April 1st through 3rd, come join us at Vendor Showcase. It'll be really, really fun. It always is fun. And we're getting a lot better at this. We're also going to have some collaborations, and Todd may have a surprise for us, something he's been working on. So I'm really eager to see that. If you're wondering how to get any of the links for any of this stuff, I will be putting them in the comments of both Facebook and YouTube as soon as I'm done here. Because while I'm on here, I need to work on the technology. And somebody mentioned I could have someone else as the moderator. Yeah, but everybody is busy with stuff, so I got to learn how to do this by myself. And Ben's expectations will be high. Well, I am expecting you to participate, Ben. Looking forward to it. And we are all ecstatic about the upcoming egg challenge. Egg jokes will be accepted. Okay, so we're getting off the track here, and I wanted to show you what I'm about to do. So I've got my light shining in, and that's helpful for this work right here, where I want to be looking in and watching what's happening with the tool on the wood. And what I'm going to do now is take a full depth pass on the wall of the recess with the tool perpendicular to the bed of the lathe. And I've already got that first millimeter of depth done. So I'm going to cut now until I get right out to that level. And then one more. And we'll see how it fits. And I, as you know, I'm willing to take all kinds of cuts to get it to fit. It won't fall out. That means I'm getting close, but it doesn't fit just yet. What I'm doing is looking down on the top of the tool and lining it up parallel to the lathe bed, and I'm moving the tool back and forth parallel to the bed to get a cut that takes a little bit less force to make it happen. Okay, so this is good, but it's very tight. And tight is great until you go to try to take it off. So I'm doing that where I'm going to look at it, see where the shiny mark is, and see if maybe is the shiny mark on the inside, telling me it's a little tighter at the bottom of the recess. I am not thinking so. I think it needs maybe a tiny bit out of the opening so I can angle the tool slightly so that I only take a whisper of wood off right at the opening. Now I'm going to do something else too. I'm going to deburr that corner because I like deburred corners. I am going to chamfer this top corner. This will allow me a little more possibility of getting the piece out if that tight jam fit is too tight. Actually, I need to chamfer it a bit more. What I'm trying to do is get to where the edge of the lid piece can be pried upon if it ends up too tight here. Or not the lid piece, the base of the box. All right, so that's a tight fit, and it's easier when I have all this bulk here. But if I rounded this over as I finish my box, it becomes more difficult. So here's something I can do. My first line of defense is take a rubber glove, and I may not even have to put the glove on. That'll allow me a better grip. If I put the glove on, I get a little bit more better grip. I might be able to pry with my fingernails in here because I've got those double chamfers. That's not so good. But the last line of defense is a hole, and I can push the piece out through the hole. Okay, so that's what I wanted to show you today. And oh darn, they're tired of egg jokes. It's cracking me up though. I love it. So very cool, very cool. Anyway, yes, bring your egg jokes and bring yourself to Vendor Showcase. I also want to make a mention of, let me get back over here, of, yeah, something else I'm doing, which is my next online presentation, which is a class in working with metal using our normal woodworking equipment. You can see this picture of my my wonderful milling machine here. It's a 1946 Gorton 9J, and I love it. But I've learned how to do a lot of metalworking before I had a milling machine, or when I could go to someone else's shop, but would rather just do it at my shop. And there are some tricks that I taught my metalworking friend about making stuff in the wood shop out of metal that's difficult even for typical metalworking machines to do. So oncoming there. That's not what I'm going to show you next week. This is going to be, we're going to make a few things and just a little bit of a past history. In metalworking part 1, I made this depth gauge with a little threaded knob. And metalworking part 1 is available as a video for rent if you go to my website there. Part 2 is going to expand on those skills we learned in part 1. And we're going to make some things like a tool like this one that I was using, the Carbide tipped tool. A little bit low tech, and but this is handmade stuff. And I'm going to do a couple other things, a drilling jig. We're going to make a pyramid tool grinding jig. This is fun. The pyramid tool is this 3 equal faceted, also called a point tool. So how do you grind this? I do it with a piece of hex stock that I put the rod into, and we're going to make this jig in the metalworking session next week. So that'll be fun. And in order to grip that hex stock, well, we're going to need to make a collet for the scroll chuck. All right, so yes, the real challenge would be to turn an omelet. We'll let you try that, David. And better late than never, Diana. Good to see you from Vancouver, BC. If you didn't get the beginning of this, it's going to be, it just automatically goes onto YouTube and Facebook. So if you're watching on YouTube, you can just see it. And I'm not sure exactly if you have to click a different tab that says live or if it's just right there on the front of my channel. But go to my YouTube channel and you'll be able to find it again and watch it. So, yeah. And thank you very much. It's great to see all of you live too, live enough. And if you want to come and join me live and interactive, where you have a camera and a microphone and we can actually communicate, we've got vendor showcase, which is great fun. And we've also got my upcoming demonstration on metal machining for woodworkers. So that's March 16th at 1 p.m. Eastern. And you can get either a ticket for that event or both the part 1 video and the live part 2. Vendor showcase now, where are you, is free. And so, yeah, we'll even give you a discount. Figure that one out. Okay, guys, I'm closing it down here. We got any last minute questions? Put them in there. AW's in Chattanooga. Rat Pick, good to see you. Love the name. Yeah, it's in Chattanooga, and I'll be there. I'll be in the trade show. I will also be doing a couple of demos. But if you want to come chat with me, come see me in the trade show. That's where I'll have time to chat and see all of you who I have only seen online these past 2 years. It'll be really cool. And don't expect me to recognize you from your profile picture. That, yeah. Thank you, Ratpick. And thank you, everyone. It's been great. I'm going to sign out here, and we will see y'all either at Vendor Showcase or at my upcoming IRD on next Wednesday. And, okay. Scott Hampton, yay, he's demonstrating at the symposium too. So, yeah, we'll have a whole online gathering there, and it won't be online, it'll be in person. Come to Scott's demo, and we can all challenge him with questions, and no heckling, but we can ask him some questions that challenge him. Right, Scott? Just giving you a hard time. Okay. Thank you all too for being here. Over and out. See you next time.